We're back and we're live. It is currently 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time. It's 9:05 here. And honestly, I'm just gonna get straight into it. Today was quite literally the worst possible training day I had today for various reasons. Um, Honestly, I did not want to make the video, honestly, because I'm kind of upset right now. But it is what it is. And for the sake of my own sake of trying to review this these trades that I took, but also, to be sincere and to be transparent and honest about, you know, the trading and stuff that's been going on. I want to keep it a buck. So I'm just gonna get straight into it. And yeah, okay. So basically, at open, I was very bearish. Okay, at open, I was very bearish. I ended up taking three trades, as you guys can see, one, two, three up here. And I'm just gonna summarize real quick what does that happen, just to see what kind of nonsense I was working with here. Not on the charts, but on my own. The kind of nonsense I was on right now. Like this is honestly really upsetting to see, and that's what it is. So just for the bias context, I was bearish, right? SMT at the highs, previously highs have been taken out on S&P. They were not on Nasdaq just yet. We had a huge rejection candle here. We inversed this gap. We traced back into the BPR. Um, and yeah, so I'm gonna drag this down towards 9:30 open. 9:30 open is right here. Okay, 9:30 open right here. Let me get rid of all of this. Nope. Okay, so basically what I'm looking at here, essentially, right, is honestly I'm just looking for us to take shorts. Right, I'm looking for us to sell off towards previously lows, most likely, or at least these internal draws down here. Um, yeah. So at open, I'm waiting for us to essentially just push upwards towards the 1 hour intermittent high, right? Which we do. We have a huge wick that occurs here when the 1 hour intermittent high gets tapped into. And from here, I might look for entries, generally speaking. But in this case, I end up not looking for anything. I just end up looking for the first 5 minutes to go through because that's generally what I like to look for. First 5 minutes tend to be kind of choppy, so that's what I end up doing. So I wait for the first 5 minutes to do their thing, right? What's the next one here? And then yeah, boom. So this is where my first entry comes in, right? So initially, right, once again, we're bearish, very obviously, I think here. We huge wake up here, right? What I end up seeing for my first entry is this essentially. So we end up pulling back up here, right? So once again, my higher time frame bias is bearish, correct? And so what I end up seeing here for me to take any kind of short was the fact that we got this, right? So we have this huge wick up here, right? We end up tracing up to zero point 0.5 of the Fibonacci range here. So equilibrium gets tapped into from this huge expansion leg that we got here, right? So what I did see was the fact that we do inverse this bearish gap here, which I did not like. But what I had in mind was the fact that if we were looking to take sells, what we would want to do is reinstate this Fib Valley gap and inverse this Fib Valley gap, right? So what we end up doing here is we end up getting this IFEG right here, which means that bearish order flow is still in play. On top of that, we get a huge wick from equilibrium, which I'd like to see. And on top of that, my entry comes in here. We end up getting this IFEG here. So this is an FEG right here, right? Technically reinstated FEG here. We initially inverse it, but then we reestablish it again. And then we end up inversing this FEG right here. To add things all together, this small zone right here is a BPR zone, which fails to hold, right? I'm looking for a very good entry. I'm looking for a CISD entry down here, essentially, right? So I'm looking for us to push down. And honestly, I'm just looking for us to chill down towards this internal draws down here, right? So what ends up happening, right, is we once again reinstate the Fair Valley gap. Eventually, we do get the CISD I'm looking for. We get the IFEG here as well. So let me just mark this CISD real quick. Right there, right? We get the CISD. And essentially my entry ends up being here, right? So I end up taking an entry here. Honestly, I forgot how many contracts I went in with. Hypothetically, let's go with 5. right? I take my entry order here. For limits, we get the fill, boom. But basically, what I end up doing is I become afraid. I get scared. Basically, essentially, is what happens. I get scared. I am getting scared, right? And essentially, once I see that this kind of stalls around here, I get scared and I go break even. Though generally speaking, my break even point, or I ideally, generally speaking, I always like to go break even once we confirm we break below a certain level. In this case, break even would have been right here. We break even right there once we break below this level. And at this point, I had already gone break even basically. So what happens is I go break even at this point. So I'll go back here a little bit. I essentially go break even here. Once we tap into the zone and extend back upwards, I get caught off at break even, though that's generally not my break even point. So what ends up happening is that we end up delivering lower towards my draw. We do end up taking out this internal low first, shoot back up. We would not have tapped into my CISD here, but we could have argued we could take an entry here since that is a 5 minute low there as well here, which could have been a possible exit zone as well. But even then, we would have delivered down all the way. But because I got scared, I ended up not taking that entry, right? So um, that was, it's a mistrade right there just because I got scared, and it kind of frustrates me because I know I should not be afraid and scared of taking, these kind of trades. And I messed up on a really good trade. That was a really good 1.7 RR trade, and I did not capitalize on just because I got scared, and it's bothering me so much. But it is what it is. My next entry ends up being here. So basically, as I can see, we're obviously drawing down to previous day lows, right? We end up getting really close to previous day lows. We're very obviously trying to target the previous day lows there. I am taking an entry here, right? So I'm waiting essentially for this 15-minute to tap into, which we finally do right here very nicely. Basically, what I end up taking my trade in is that I see that we have this 5 minute gap formed down here, right? I have this 5 minute gap formed right here. On the 1 minute, right? I see this. We tap into the 15 minutes. I like how we get this. We have this FEG right here on the 1 minute. And then we end up inversing this 1 minute gap here pretty strongly here. And we end up getting a CISD here as well. So this is where my second entry comes in. Basically, what I end up doing is I am taking a CISD entry here, right? Delivering from this 15 minute. Like I said, at this point, I'm almost certain that the draw on liquidity is previous day lows. And I'm not even looking to take an entry towards previous day lows. I'm looking to take an entry at least just towards the unfilled 5 minute for a little 101 RR. So what ends up happening here is that, once again, I take my entry here. I'm only looking for a 101 RR, right? I'm waiting for this to do its thing. We do get the pullback here into the CISD. Boom. Huge expansion candle upwards. Once again, stop loss up here. TP at just a little 101 RR. And at this point, we do end up forming a new 5 minute gap right here, which would have been my break-even point if we did choose to tap into it. But we end up not doing anything of the sorts, and we just deliver and expand higher and resweep the high. I get stopped out. I take a loss of, in this case, it was $500. You see, if I put my stop loss right here, yeah, that would have been a 500. It was supposed to be a $489 loss, but I ended up being 570 because this wick was huge, and I ended up being a $570 loss. So that was my loss. Honestly, I wasn't super upset with it, but at the same time, I kind of was because I kind of knew that I should really have waited for the 5 minute to get tapped into first for me to do anything, and I ended up, just kind of getting cooked there. So this is where my second entry was. That was a loss that I ended up getting, and then after this, I take one more trade. So it ends up being right here. So once we resweep here, like I said, I'm certain. I'm really certain that previous day lows, what is the draw on liquidity, especially because we left this low down here. We tap into a 15-minute gap above us here. This is definitely the draw on liquidity for us. And so I'm looking for us to trace down this level down here. So what is that we end up doing? Once again, like I said, we end up getting this 5-minute gap right here. 5-minute gap right here. I'm waiting for this to get tapped into so that I can say it has been mitigated, right? Basically, essentially, right? So we have a sweep of 15-minute. We come back down. We form a 5-minute gap. Another one. We re-sweep it high. And what I'm basically waiting for to occur is that at this point, I see that we get a 1-minute IFEG form right here. Finally, let me see if I can extend this. Yeah, we get a 5-minute FEG form right here. Sorry, IFEG form right here. And I kind of want to confirm sells first with the CISD. So right here. So what ends up happening is here is this. We tap, we inverse this gap, we push through, we end up tapping into this 5-minute gap. We tap into this 5-minute gap, indicating to me that we have finally mitigated that zone. What my entry here is looking at is two things. A is the fact that we tap into the 15-minute, we trace up, down, and trace back up, resweep the high, create a new high, and then deliver lower. We got an IFEG. We finally mitigate the 5-minute gap. But even after that, even after the 5-minute gap had been mitigated, we still get a 1-minute CISD. If we were trying to extend from this part, I feel like we wouldn't have gotten this the chin stem delivery in the 1 minute. We would have wanted to expand higher. So we end up getting this 1-minute CISD right here, right? 1-minute CISD, stop loss at the high. And like I said, I'm almost confident that draw on liquidity is in fact previous day lows down here, right? So the 5-minute gap has been mitigated already, right? Usually I like to see it get traced right through, but in this case, because I considered this one like large zone, and the 5-minute gap had already been mitigated, and we still continue to get a CISD. I'm looking to take sells here, so I end up taking another sell entry here. I forgot how many contracts I was go with for in this case. It was basically one with $500 basically. So we get the CISD here. We get a fill very nicely here. Stop loss at the high once again. And then I'm looking for us to TP down at previous day lows as my R is drawn liquidity, right? At this point, right, what ends up happening is that we kind of stall around a little bit, right? We kind of stall around a little bit. I'm waiting for us to push through. If anything, I'm looking for us to break even at maybe tapping into the next 5 minutes right here. Although once again, I consider the gap to be one full gap. Basically, once again, I get scared. Once I see this large wick right here, I become afraid once again. So basically what I'm doing is that once it comes back down into this level right here, I essentially go break even once again. And I get stopped out. And then from here, we essentially just kind of stall around a little bit, but ultimately we end up delivering all the way to the draw on liquidity. And this is super upsetting to me because I get the feeling that I can read the charts. I can see certain things. My entries might not be the best, but I can observe and I can actually analyze pretty well. But in this case, it was just so bad. Like it was just so bad. My entries were horrendous. My entry knowledge was a little bit wonky, and yet I can tell like they were trying. It was trying to deliver. And yesterday I took no trades. There could have maybe been a trade, but I took no trades. But today was honestly really clean. I just completely like just sold so hard. These were two 1.7 RR trades that I could have capitalized on, but because I got afraid and I got scared to lose money, I wasn't able to capitalize on them. And the one time that I actually tried to, the idea behind it was honestly not that great, and I got stopped out really hard. honestly, the idea behind this was not good. I went in regular, trying to be confident in everything. But once of that kind of basically killed my confidence. And when I came back to this, I didn't want to lose any more money. So I'm like, you know what, never mind. And it ended up delivering lower. So when I had to trust my instincts, I didn't. When I didn't have to trust when I shouldn't have trusted myself, I did. And it was just kind of the whole thing set up everywhere. And two times I could have, made money on a day, and I ended up taking such a big fat L. So honestly, today was just honestly overall horrendous trading day. Honestly, this is probably the worst trading day I've had. Um, honestly, in the everything that I've had, like I mean, the other times I couldn't explain why I was taking L's. This time around, I can see exactly how I lost, why I lost, where I went wrong, what I read wrong, and the fact that I can is good because I can see where I went wrong, but it's also horrendous because I then know that it could have been inevitable. And yet I took the trades, so on and so forth. Or in this case, I did not take the trades. Or in this case, I did take the trades, but I didn't follow through with them. With that being said, um, that's how horrendous trading can be, how demeaning it can be sometimes. Um, I mean, it is what it is. 500. So, by the way, I started a new combine. I'm trying to do a really heavy combine in this case. I'm trying to pass this combine as soon as possible. I'm going in with $500. So this is a 50K combine. I'm going in with risking $500 about per trade. In this case, obviously slippage kind of cooked me up, but I'm trying to go with about $500 or sub $500 per trade to get a total of about 4 trades. I'm trying to pass the combine as soon as possible. The goal is 3K. Drawdown is 2K. I'm with Trado. No, I'm with Trade 5 right now. And I don't know, just trying it out, I guess. But so far, big fat L's on a day that I could have done better, but it is what it is. With that being said, I mean, like I said, I'm going to be transparent here. I'm not going to, trying to meander and trying to lie or anything of the sort. That's just how it is. With that being said, hopefully I can lock in the next couple of days, see what's up. And if I blow the account, it is what it is. But yeah, deuces.